Yo, what is going on, everybody? I am King Mexico, also known as Jesse Goku, also known as apparently the criminal around here. And joining me today is the man, the one, the only Ken, the Kenneth.
What up? Damn, it's Monday again.
Yep. I gotta change the caption. I forgot I gotta work. There we go. Much better indeed. So what is up, everybody? It is Monday, March 8th, 2021. We are on the third level on the sequel to Jumanji that was 2020. So far, this year is off to a questionable start, but tomato, whatever. All right, so what's going on, man? How was your weekend?
My weekend? My week was all right. I worked all weekend, so, you know.
Well, I meant to say week.
Now I'm off.
Actually. Woo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. It is another Trash Talk panel. Remember, the video thing that we're doing on the G5E podcast, this is temporary because we're going to go to an audio-only format soon.
For this show?
Yes, for this show. Matter of fact, I forgot to fucking record the show.
Oh, come on, man.
I forgot. Well, today's episode will be exclusive.
Video exclusive. On OnlyFans.
But so today we're going to be talking about panels. So for a lot of people that I have talked to in the past before, they have come to me and asked me about starting their own panels at anime conventions, Comic Cons. What kind of panels do I host? Like, what ideas do I have? Do I have any ideas, or do I need any help? Like, how do I pitch to the cons? How do I get the cons to accept it? It's a lot of questions here and there. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't expect our audience to be very big today because I didn't get a chance to advertise. Plus, we are starting we started half an hour late today.
We did indeed.
Yes, we did. But hopefully our numbers post show will be good. So, though, first things first, man. Like, we're talking about panels. Well, before we start to talk about panels, I know we said it. What did you think of last week's show, by the way? Last week's was pretty good. It was a very good pilot.
Oh yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I think it went pretty well, especially for a show that we were just kind of like, all right, we're just gonna sit down and talk.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
whatever happens.
Isn't that what podcast is? Though it's just a glorified small talk conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think we made some good leaps, and then towards the end, we were already setting up for this show. So I mean, I think it did well. It went well.
Right. No, I think it went well too.
Oh no. Pause for this brief intermission.
Pause. we take a break to our sponsor. Random questions in the background. No, but so we're talking about. So I know you hosted panels before in the past. What cons did you host those panels at? Because I know you've done more than anime cons. I think you've even gone like to non-anime, non-comic cons. Like, you've gone to steampunk conventions.
Yeah, steampunk exclusive conventions as well. So pretty much, if there was a show in Texas at one point or another, I've done it. I think the only exception here is A-Fest. I think so, because A-Fest we would go to, but we never really embarked on hey, let's inquire about hosting stuff. But we've hosted here, we've hosted in Texas, we've hosted in Louisiana, Missouri, California, Georgia. We've been around. It's just one of those things. Like, if you want, it's like Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come, right?
Right.
So if you something you really want to pursue, then it's something that you can grow and you can expand, and you can start going pretty much anywhere you want to go, as long as you're willing to put the time dedication into doing it.
I completely agree. But I think there's a lot of people that are intimidated by hosting panels.
Okay, so I feel that if don't host a panel just because you want to host a panel. Like, don't host a panel because you're like, oh, people talk about if I host panels, then I'll get certain perks. Like, don't do it for that reason. If you're going to host a panel because it's something that you like legitimately love, right? So don't go to a con where if you're a photographer and you're like a really great photographer and you take amazing cosplay pictures, do not try and host a panel on how to build cosplay props. Like, that's not what you're there for. Host a panel on how to set up lighting and how to do After Effects. You can host a panel about something that you're passionate about, that you're good at doing. And as long as it's something that you're good at and something that you have, you don't even have to be amazing, just passable knowledge. The panel is about knowledge. It's not about like technical skill. There's certain things I know how to do with them, but I haven't perfected them. I can passably do it. Like, I can passably cast my own bronze. I can do that. I'm not amazing. I know some people who are just out of this world who have been doing it for 25 years. Those are the people I learned from. So I have the knowledge. I can host a panel on it, and I can pass that knowledge on to people, and then I can give them the resources and say, hey, check out my friend. Here's his link. If you have any like master class questions, you can ask him, and he's more than happy to answer.
What the hell? I don't know why, but the comments aren't showing up on our Restream. They're showing up on the Restream app. But my friend, I'm not going to say his full name. I'm just going to say his first name. Vincent says, hey, yo. What's up, Vincent?
What up?
We are talking about panels today. So if you have any questions, hit me up, man. But, I mean, not every panel is informative. Some are just,
opinionated.
Some are just bullshitting around. Yeah, I mean, some are just entertaining, but they're just there for you to like have a good time.
Right, but ultimately it all comes back to a panel is not going to be good if you don't have a passion for what you're doing. So even it's something as simple as hosting cosplay dating. I've been to panels where somebody's hosting cosplay dating just because they needed the extra 2 hours of programming, and so they put it on there for the con. They don't really care, and that panel goes terrible. And then you've got people who legitimately are like, hey, I think this is an amazing thing. I want to try and set some people up. Like, I want somebody to find love tonight, right? And those panels usually go better. And it's not about information. It's not about spreading information. It's about, I have a passion for my panel. So as long as there's something that you're passionate about, you can host a panel about it in the right settings. Not every panel is good for every convention, obviously. But you can always put it on your list of your pitched panels. And if the convention so chooses to pick that one, then obviously you'll host it. But like for me, I've got 26 different panels that I throw them all to the con, and I go, all right, look, this is what I want out of this deal. You tell me how many hours you want, and you pick and choose which panels you want. And then we come to an understanding and an agreement, and then that's the panels that we end up hosting at that event. Now, there's some that I pitch really hard. I'm like, I really want to host this one. And there's other ones I'm like, I'm not in love with this panel, but I'll do it if that's what you want. I've had that at ApolloCon a couple of times, but that's because ApolloCon's more sci-fi. And so
it's a horror sci-fi convention.
Yeah, and they want those more sci-fi panels, and there's nothing wrong with that. I still love hosting them, but I don't get to host like Battlestar Galactica that often. But guess what? I host Battlestar Galactica at ApolloCon more times than I think I've hosted combined at other conventions.
I miss ApolloCon.
I miss cons. That's just flat out 100%. I miss just cons. Like I'm waiting for them to come back.
I mean, we still have 2 conventions in Houston that are still going on as of right now.
Okay, I miss safe conventions. How about that? Okay, Whenever I have an opportunity to safely attend a convention, then I will be back.
Summit panels again.
I will be back.
I completely understand. So we're going to go back and we're going to talk about, we're going to go into depth. We're going to talk more about detail. But one of the things I will offer is that when you're creating a panel that's very similar to one's already doing, because one of the most common panels that people do are dating based panels. They do speed dating, they do social dating, or they do the dating game.
I like the dating game.
So we do the dating game as well. So we have a very unique version of the dating game.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, and based on what I've heard, we are second to none.
Haven't participated in yours. Dating game was one of the first events I was ever a part of at a con, and I loved it. And I tried to make it to as many of them as possible.
So let me share some insight with you on our dating game. So you know how the format goes. You have the bachelor, bachelorette, and then you have the participants.
Right.
So instead of picking the one person they are going to date, first off, when we start the panel, we encourage audience participation.
Mm-hmm.
They are encouraged to troll the people on stage. And if they are not entertaining, they are allowed to boo them off the stage and we get a replacement in the middle of that contest. We started one where it was a girl, it was a bachelorette, and we had all the really like attractive, boyish, good look dudes. It was like 7 or 8 of them. And they were all dressed as Sailor Scouts. All of them were dressed as Sailor Scouts. Only 3 survived because all of them were booed off the stage.
Nice.
Because they were not funny. They weren't entertaining. Somebody even told them, like, get off the stage. You suck.
Mm-hmm. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Hey, like, listen, man, you suck. Get off. I don't even sugarcoat it. I'm like, you heard them. So after it's all said and done, all right, ladies and gentlemen, instead of picking one contestant to date, they shall pick 2. However, they can still only date 1. So we're going to go from there. So they pick the 2. Then we show them the one they didn't get. And then, all right, now they must have a competition. And so as long as the participants consent, the bachelor, bachelorette will choose the contest that they will have. And it has gone, and it gets crazy. It's gone anywhere from strip teases to lap dances to moaning battles to arm wrestling to yo mama jokes to like whatever you can think of, as long as it's legal and the participants consent. Like,
what
seriously,
what rating do you get on this panel? PG-13?
No, it's 18 plus.
Oh, okay.
This is an 18 plus panel. Like, we had like the girls started like twerking and they were fine with it. Like, everyone crowded like people were fighting.
Yeah, that's a crazy panel, my friend.
So at Anime Matsuri, we had 500 people. It was so packed that the fire marshal actually showed up and threatened to shut down the panel. People kept sneaking in because they stopped letting people in.
Mm-hmm.
And people were coming in through the side doors because Anime Matsuri doesn't get the Georgia Brown to lock any of their doors.
Right.
So that, that's on them. But so, and the point is, to the replication is, our dating game is something that has evolved over time. It's not something, I took the original dating game concept and I added stuff like the Money in the Bank. That's a WWE thing.
Right.
We have a Money in the Bank where they can challenge the bachelor or bachelorette and take their spot to win the competition. It's so complex and creative, and like some things work, some things don't work. Like the original name was the dating game battle royale, but we now call it the Super Cosplay Dating Game Show. We call it a show so people know that it's just a show.
Right.
But like, we have heard stories of other people trying to replicate this panel that we do, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
for some reason.
We like to try and do repeat panels, especially if it's the same event, and especially if it's something that like an ongoing show. And I think the funniest thing that we've had on that is we hosted, love it or hate it, we hosted the Game of Thrones panel at Comic Palooza 4 years in a row, I think, as the show was coming to an end. And we came in to our panel, and we're setting up at the table, and we're seeing all these familiar faces from years past, right? And so we're setting up at the table, and this person walks into the room, and they walk up to the table, and they go, excuse me, I think this is my panel. And I was like, no, this is our panel. This is the Game of Thrones panel, right? Yes. Yeah, I'm hosting the Game of Thrones panel. And so I was super confused. I was like, did I get the time wrong? Like, is there 2 Game of Thrones panels here this year? And so I pulled out the program, and I flipped through it, and I find the time slot and the room number. And I was like, oh, no, you can look right here. Like, it says, our panel name and then hosted by our group's name.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very insistent. She's like, no, this is my panel. I'm going to do this panel. And so I just turned to the audience, and I was like, all right, so there's a little bit of a confusion up here. Both of us apparently are slated to host this panel. So who would you prefer, by a round of applause, who would you prefer to host this panel? And so we're like, you get first dibs over to this person. A couple of people like, whoa. And then it was like, okay, what about us? And then all these people that had been there for years just stood up, and they're like, yeah! They look like a bunch of fucking warriors out of the
right.
books, just charge the stage. And she left. And I'm pretty positive we got a complaint filed against for that one. But, it is what it is. And then go ahead. You got it.
I was going to say, there's not much that the con is going to do willingly, even if it is a complaint, because I'm pretty sure that if she explains the entire story, well, this is my panel, I was supposed to host it, and they look at it in the schedule, are you so-and-so?
Right.
No, I'm this person. Well, according to the schedule,
right,
it says this group. Because I've gotten confusion too, or I saw panels on the schedule, and I'm like, wait, is this us? And then I asked the people, like, is this us? Who's hosting this? Oh, it's G5E. Okay, that is us. Or they'll say another group. I'm like, okay, that's not us. Thank God. I can have an extra hour to drink.
Yeah, we also had an incident with fire marshals at George R. Brown, because we had a panel. So the submission process for Comic Palooza. So you submit your panel, you submit a description, and then you request the room size. How big do you predict this panel is going to be? And so the year prior, we were in I think we were in the medium or the large room. I can't remember. Whichever one holds 250. And we were at max capacity. And so I requested that we get bumped up to the room that was for 500 people. And
I'll be back. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, you got it. So I requested that we get bumped up to the room for 500 and put in the description, was in the room for 250 last year, max capacity, had to turn people away. I don't know if there was something weird with the room scheduling that year or what, but we ended up getting bumped down to the 100 room. And so they open up the doors for this panel. Hey, what's up? They open up the doors for this panel. And again, mind you, we were in the 250 last year. They bumped us down to the 100 that year. We opened that door up, and literally the room was instantly filled. Just completely filled. And there's people still queued up at the door. And so we went in, and to try and accommodate as best as we could, we took all of the chairs from the front of the room, and we took all the chairs out, and we pushed them into the little, because they've got little cubbies, in the George R. Brown. We pushed all the chairs into the cubby, and we were basically like, hey, look, pop a squat, sit. We can put more people in this room this way. because we didn't want to turn anybody away. So all these people are coming in, sitting on the floor. There's people standing, leaned against the walls everywhere. It was massive. And finally, we had to just tell people, we're like, hey, look, we're at literally max capacity. Not what the sign says, but like we can't fit any more sweaty people in here. And so, unfortunately, we had to turn some people away that year. We're about halfway through the panel. Fire marshal shows up. You guys are over max capacity for this room. And I was like, okay. So can we like can we have like 5 minutes? I'll wrap the panel up like real quick. Just give me 5 minutes. They were cool enough to give us 5 minutes. But the whole time the fire marshals were standing on the outside of the room, like looking at their watches, like, okay, you literally have 5 minutes. That's the worst case I've had so far with fire.
Because if you don't end it in 5 minutes, there will be a fire and you'll all burn.
Yeah, right. We will set this room on fire. Like
to prove a point.
Right.
Just to prove a point. Pachinko says hello.
What up? All right. So question for you, because I think this is what really, this podcast is about. Why don't you talk about how you went from just being a con attendee to a con presenter?
And, we were going to get to that point because that's very vital. Because people don't realize that when you're starting a panel, there is a trade-off. So, I mean, I'm going to answer your question, but I have a question for you that actually pertains to that one.
Okay.
How long have you been going to conventions as a whole?
Oh my Lord. Gonna be showing my age here. The first convention that I ever went to was, okay, let me rephrase this. The first convention I ever went to by myself that I didn't get like dropped off at, that I drove myself to a convention and
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, right. And did the whole deal by myself was 16 years ago.
Holy shit. So
yeah.
Okay, so you've been at it longer than I have.
Yeah.
Then again, I didn't know conventions existed. I knew about San Diego Comic-Con, but I thought that was the only one.
Right.
Because everybody knew about that one. That one, they had footage of it on MTV. And whether you liked MTV or not, if it was on MTV, you knew about it.
Right. Back in those days, anyway.
Back in those days, yeah. Not so much anymore. Like, I don't really know what the hell. Somebody's like, oh, MTV still has reality shows. I'm like, MTV still around?
Yeah, I remember watching like Rock of Love, the Flavor of Love.
They had all kinds of crazy shows.
Surreal Life.
They occasionally still showed music videos too.
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah, like they had a whole hour out of the day dedicated to just.
Once they figured out that reality television drew viewers in, they stopped playing music as much. You would wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. and they'd be playing music, and then about 9:30, 10 o'clock, it would switch over to reality until like the rest. Like,
well, they also had other stuff. They had wrestling. They had I think at one point they had some anime. I know at one point though, for sure, they had SpongeBob on MTV.
I think MTV definitely did have anime at one point, and then they split. And isn't that where G4 ended up coming?
G4 was always a gaming channel.
Yeah, but I think G4 was a split from MTV to dedicate to gaming and anime, because G4 had a lot of anime too.
Maybe, I think so. So the reason why I asked the age is because when I started going to anime conventions when I was 19, this is 2007. This is almost 14 years ago. This is just 2 years shy of your age. But when I first went to anime conventions, I was amazed at like the cosplays. I almost said, yeah, costumes, the characters, which is cosplay.
Yes.
Like how everybody dressed, the whole everything. And I just walked around, took pictures all day, got to meet people. And I went to the dealer's room, spent $300 because I bought some stuff for some friends. And then the second convention we went to for a day was IkiCon. And then we went to Matsuri and then YuleCon. And no, then A-Con, then YuleCon. So I started going to more and more anime conventions. And then I started meeting people. So when I debuted a cosplay that kind of got me some notoriety because we went on stage and danced to Barbie Girl while taking off our shirts. I started meeting people that worked at these conventions backstage. And so I ended up eventually meeting the owner of Kamikaze Con.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to help Kamikaze Con. Plus, I was broke and didn't have a car, so they were willing to let me stay there for free and give me a ride. Matsuri offered me a staff position, but I saw the email too late. I'm really glad I didn't take it because at the time I didn't know all the bad shit. I knew John and Denise on a personal level, but I didn't know like their history. But I just wanted to help. That's how it started off. Is I just wanted to help and host panels and like do stuff. And then so what gave me the idea for the versus panels was the photo shoots. The photo shoots were actually the inspiration for the versus panels because they did Naruto versus Bleach as a photo shoot. And that's what really inspired me to start. And then once I started hosting panels, I almost shit my pants. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
I wasn't prepared. I didn't even prep. I just said fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
That's always been my mindset. Let's just do it.
Yep.
I always wing it, and like 90% of the time it works. Because I'll find someone in the audience that knows what they're doing. Hey, you, come on and help me. You want to help me? Come on and help me.
Right.
Like in reality, it's like, oh, thank God somebody here knows what the fuck they're talking about. That sounds right. I hope it's right. It sounds right. But like what got me into anime conventions was that I wanted to help. I wanted to help Kamikaze Con because that was the same year they went head to head with Matsuri, which was possibly Anime Matsuri's best year they've ever had. It was 2009. They had Miyabi. They had all kinds of out the ass pulling guests, expensive guests. They were such a stacked show that every other show in comparison just never compared. And for reasons now, but we're not going to get into that. But it was helping. And once I started hosting these panels, there was just something about it. And it's kind of hard to describe, but once you host a panel, you want to do it again. And it's just like, it's not so much about is the attention. Yeah, the attention I'm not gonna lie to you, the attention does have something to do with it. I mean, there are people that straight up cosplay just for attention. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people that host panels just to promote their groups or just to get attention.
Yep.
There are people that let people simp on them just for attention.
Yep.
So I mean, it's once you host these panels though, it's just something, because the cons were eventually starting to get boring too.
Whoa. So okay, that's a phenomenon that I wanted to touch on at some point in this show. So you already said it. Same thing for me. But here's the thing. Were conventions getting boring to you before you hosted your first panel or after? Afterwards, yeah. Yeah, same here. Like once here's the trade-off, people. Here is the 100% trade-off. Once you've become a panel host, you have a schedule, an itinerary that you have to keep a track on, you have certain obligations that you have to do throughout the day. I went to either AggieCon or ApolloCon, not as a guest, just to enjoy the con, and I had no idea what the hell to do with myself. Like, I went there and instantly in my head, I was like, wow, what did I used to do? Because I used to have so much fun as just a regular attendee. Like, IkiCon, oh, you were with us. IkiCon 2011. or I think it was 2010 going into 2011, or it was 2011 going into 20.
It was 20. So I wasn't dating my baby mom at the time, so it was 2010.
Well, we're not going to get into personal stuff on the show, but I think you were. I think it was 11 into 12. Like probably. Midnight was going into 2012.
No. The reason why I say no, because the first time me and her went to IkiCon while we were dating was the one where it was at the AT&T Center.
Yeah, but you weren't with her at the convention. Let me do something crazy real quick.
I think I was talking to her at the time.
10. Hold on. Nope. It was definitely 11 going into 12 because 10 going into 11, the 31st was Friday. And we 100% went down to 6th Street and partied New Year's Eve, which was,
I didn't go with. Oh wait, I didn't go with you to 6th Street.
You didn't go with us, but it was 2011 going into 12. I went to that convention. I'm going to out myself here. Did not buy a badge for the convention at all. We had a room. All we didn't go to any panels. We didn't go to any events. We didn't do a single thing that was actually a part of the convention. And so we didn't have a badge, except we hung out on the floor and on that terrace, that balcony, for 2.5 days. That's all we did. We didn't do it. And I had the time of my life out there. It was amazing. And then looking back on that, I'm like, why can't I have fun like that anymore at a con? Like, I have to have something to do. I have to feel like special. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I remember the balcony thing. So yes. I was out there with y'all for a while, but I still had shit to do. Remember, I don't know if you remember, but I still had shit to do because I didn't buy my badge.
Yeah.
Because I remember telling you to your face, I'm not buying a fucking badge.
Yeah.
Or something.
We stood in line for 30 minutes and then went, no, we're not going to do this. And we just went because the way that the con was set up that year, there were no checkpoints. You didn't have to have a badge.
No, only for the panels, I think.
Yeah. To be on the main floor, you didn't have to have a badge. To go into the dealer's room, the panels, all that stuff, you had to have one. But it was a good time.
Blastoid says some panels are getting a little boring. Are they just rinse and repeat kind of panels?
Yeah, but that's part, unfortunately.
That's a lot of gray area, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of panels. Once you've seen them, they're very similar. They're not always the same, but they're very similar. I find myself doing that with certain panels because there are certain talking points that you want to get to in every panel. And like the beginning of our beatdown panel, it always starts the same, and it's always the same verse battle when we start off, and that's Goku versus Naruto. So it's always that's the first fight that always happens. Now, whatever happens after that is completely controlled by the audience. Mm-hmm. But you have to have that first one that the panelists have argued 100 times. We've already argued this. And so we can show the audience, this is the format. This is what we're looking for. So let me explain the panel to you. This is what we're doing. We're taking two heroes from two separate universes. We're pitting them against each other. Then we're going to argue it out. At the beginning, we're going to have everybody raise their hand if you think Goku, and then everybody raise your hand if you think Naruto. Now, we're going to argue. Me and him are going to argue. We're going to call out to y'all to argue. And then at the end, we're going to raise our hands again and see how many people we've swayed to the other side after we've had our argument. So we do that. And then round 2 is, hey, we're going to throw this out to you guys. You pick somebody. Let's go. And then we try and get in like 6 fights, but there's got to be time for debate, right? So usually it's closer to 5, but we try to sneak in 6.
With that being said, I know you have more to say, but with that being said, we're actually coming up with a panel that's kind of similar.
Oh no, I don't doubt it. Like it's a really good panel. It's
but ours is called Waifu Wars.
Waifu Wars. There you go.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 32 participants, one winner. So the way this one works is we pick. I don't know if it's gonna be 32. I think it's gonna be 16.
Yeah.
I just said 32 because it sounds better. Like the Royal Rumble, 30.
Yeah, right.
But the way it's gonna work is that we put different characters against each other, and somebody has to come up, take the mic, and represent their waifu. And at the audience, they pick which one is better. So the loser has to take their waifu, the name, picture, whatever it is, and stick it inside of a trash can.
No, they gotta rip it and then put it in the trash.
They gotta put it in the trash, and the audience they have to say, your waifu is trash. They have to chant it over and over. Your wife is trash, 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 trash.
Right.
And but to add to the stale panel is I think the reason why a lot of people get really stale with their panels is because there's an it factor that you have to have. You have to have that natural charisma, or you have to work on your charisma levels to be able, because you got to understand that when you're hosting a panel, yes, people are going to show up because they're interested. Getting people's curiosity is not the problem. Keeping their attention is. And that's why so many people like our panels. And I know Ken is definitely the same way. Like, I've known him for years, and he is definitely like what we call a hype man. You have to be hype during your panel. That's why during our panels, we have introductions for all of our panels. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of 18 years and plus, geeks forever, proudly. I do it more fluent. It's been so fucking long. It's been almost 2 years since I've done it. I do it more fluent, but we do, I'll work on an intro and I'll do it at the con. And then I'll be hype. And then I do facial expressions. Like if we do the fan fiction reading one, oh my God. And people are like, I don't see what's so great about fan fiction. Like, we read shitty fan fiction. We read we read the misspelled words as they're wrote. Like goofic. Somebody tried to say gothic, but they spelled goofic.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to read it as is. We can't fix anything. But not only that, I do facial expressions like, and while people are reading, like one guy was reading and he saw my Aang and Zuko hooking up, and like Zuko took his finger into a hook and then he pauses and then reached it into Aang's mouth and pulled his cheek, and everybody's like, ah. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, whoa, stop reading. Like, y'all were all clenching y'all's cheeks, bracing yourselves for like Zuko to do something with his finger, and then he sticks it in Aang's mouth, and y'all all sound like a fat kid at a salad bar, like disappointed as shit. People are like fucking something else, and it's so crazy because you have to. They're like fan interaction. That's not for every panel, but it helps. Like they don't have to be a part of the panel, but asking questions, getting them involved, getting their 2 cents. That's why we always invite people. Like, hey, we're going to do a podcasting panel. If anybody has experience with podcasting, why don't you come on down and share your insights?
Right.
And that will give people an initiative. Like that'll give them a reason to actually show up and participate. Like, oh, I host a panel or I host a podcast. Let me go down there and share my shit with them. And, we'll see if I can help anybody out, because you have to, because there are some people who are like, all right, let's do this. And then they're like, hi, welcome to my panel. Let's get started. We're going to read some Harry Potter fan fiction. We're gonna
right, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's all about the passion. If you're passionate about something, you don't have to force it. It doesn't take a lot to get you hyped about what it is that you're talking about. It doesn't take a lot for when you're in the middle of a conversation and then you ask somebody and they try and zing you, and then you're just like, oh, what the no, you will not zing me for that, and then you zing them right back, and like, it doesn't take a lot if you're passionate about it. If you're just there, and like I said, if you're just there for the perks, if you're there for the badge, if you're there for the notoriety, the attention, a lot of times those panels fall flat. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I've been to plenty of panels that are hosted by cosplay cosplayers or that are hosted by some voice actors, and you can tell that it's not something that they really care to do. They're just there because it's part of their contractual obligation. And that's why there's certain entertainers that I don't really feel like they should get invited to conventions as much as they do.
There's some entertainers that aren't entertaining.
Exactly. And I understand that it's a name drop thing. They're like, oh, we got this person. And yeah, there's plenty of people who go, oh man, he voiced my favorite character in this show. But they've never met him. And then they meet him and they're at the panel and they're like, wow, this is kind of disappointing. And they ask their question, because that's another thing. You know, you got people lined up down the stage waiting for the microphone for their one chance to ask a question. And they ask their question and they get the worst answer possible.
Mm-hmm.
And they just leave that panel with a bad taste in their mouth. Now, for me, my journey to hosting panels was I think the reason that we bring so much fire to our panels is because we started hosting panels as a competitive thing. We were embroiled in a political struggle with another group.
It was very cutthroat back then.
It was extremely cutthroat, and to the point where we talk about gatekeeping every so often. Mm-hmm. This group wanted to gatekeep us so hard to the point where they were trying to keep us from wearing certain types of costumes. And so we went into this scene with the fire in our belly. We were like, we're going to host.
Is it that one group who I think it is?
Yeah, probably. It's the one that is not here anymore. Yeah. You know, we were at plenty of conventions at the same time.
Yeah, I know. They gate kept my bitch ass too, and I wasn't even a part of the Steam. I was friends with y'all and I hung out and I was with y'all through association, but I was never part of the airship.
Right.
But I was associated with the airship, so my ass was gate kept too.
Yeah, we came in with like the fire. We're like, we're gonna host these panels. We're gonna make them the best panels anybody's ever seen. We're gonna make them so entertaining to the point where why do you need to have both of us at a convention? Just bring us. We bring everything that you need. We'll do it for, you know, the same, if not maybe a little cheaper, just to kind of slide in under the radar there. So, you know, just let's go with that. And so we started out and we were heavy on the cosplay. We were heavy on the building panels, the safety panels, the steampunk panels. It was all about just the cosplay experience. That's where we all went in at the beginning.
I'm going to share some stuff with you and then we're going to read some comments. But so I had learned that one of the reasons why, because they weren't the only group that had beef with us, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people had issues with us. And I found out why. It's because we were way too loud. Not in the sense that we were screaming and yelling, but like a lot of these groups. So I became infamous with two groups at A-Kon 2008 because we were dressed up as Naruto and Kingdom Hearts characters and we were dancing the Barbie girl while ripping off our shirts, and we got actually, I take that back. It was Anime Matsuri. So for Anime Matsuri's cosplay contest, you had to audition. They were only picking 5 skits to be on stage.
Right.
And there was another group that has been at it for years. They've always been at it for years. And they're friends with this one individual that works for a convention. I'm not going to say the names or the convention name, but they do host a cosplay event yearly around springtime in a park. They're friends with that individual that owns that event. So what had happened was they got booted off. So I go on there, I'm dressed as Naruto, and I start dancing Thriller. That's it. I didn't have a story. I didn't have any lines. I actually just spent like the last month and a half learning how to dance Thriller. And they put me on the fucking stage as one of the finalists. And this other group got really fucking mad because they spent an entire 2 months working on their skit and they didn't qualify. And yet mine was just like, I literally edited the song an hour before I had to go and audition.
Right.
So that's where also the group comes in. Like, that's the problem that people had with the group, is some groups were upset because they had been at it for years. They had been at it for so long, and they got to this point in that amount of time. But our group literally started less than a year prior to us already making waves. Because we were very vocal, we were very out there. We were like, no, I'm not gonna fuck that. I'm not gonna do that. Because at the time, there were a lot of cosplay competitions and groups that were very political. Like, they let their friends win, and then eventually they started like getting caught, and that, you know, it was a whole ordeal about it. But we were some of those people that are like, no, I'm just gonna go ahead and skip the line and go straight to the front. And we didn't break any rules.
Right.
We didn't like screw anybody over. You got to remember, at this time, like, all the fucking nobody helped each other.
No,
or at least not that we know of. Like,
no, it was, oh God. I there's some good memories for sure. And there's also some real bad memories, because it was so polarized. Like, conventions, and it didn't start that way, at least for me. Conventions were very much a like, oh my God, you're here too, like, come hang out with us. I don't even know you, but like, you're here too, like, come hang out with us. Oh my gosh, like, come talk and be friends, and free hugs and glomping and yowie paddles, and like, that was how it all started. And then it became so polarized, right? Like, all of these, and this is a polarized statement as well. All of these nerds who came together to escape being like bullied started forming their own polarized groups and bullying each other. Like, there was a good 3-year chunk for me that was just the worst, the absolute worst. Just polarization, people bullying each other, and it made it not fun. But by that point, we were putting ourselves above all that. We were trying to get out of all of that stuff. We tried to dismiss and make nice with the couple of feuds that we did have with a couple of other groups. And we just wanted to focus on ourselves and focus on making our content better, making our presence better. And it led to some really interesting opportunities. Did I ever tell you that they flew me out to California for a TV show?
No. I know you got flown out to a con for an event, but not the TV show.
Yeah, well, that's because I had a $2 million NDA for 2.5 years, so I couldn't talk about it to begin with. But yeah, they flew us. Did you ever watch Face Off? What about?
Is it okay if it's a reality show contest or a talk show? No.
You never. Oh man. All right. So I do recommend, if as a cosplayer, I do recommend watching Face Off Sci-Fi on Sci-Fi. It's a reality competition where you do special effects makeup every week.
Oh yeah. I've never seen it.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
So they flew me and 24 other steampunk creators out to California to shoot a pilot for a TV show called Steampunked, which did air. We had 3 days of like chilling at the hotel, and then a build off that was to sample. It was basically the pilot for the show. And from that, they were going to narrow it down to 12 contestants. Well, 10 contestants and 2 alternates, right? And we went out there and meeting everybody who some of them at that point I had only ever met online. I'd only ever had interactions online, or I'd just seen their work online, but never actually talked to them. That part, amazing. Loved it. It was a great environment, and we were all like Rage Against the Machine because they were trying to keep us away from each other. They basically were like, we want you guys to stay in your room the entire time. We don't want anybody talking to each other unless it's on camera so that we can get genuine reactions and stuff like that. And we were like, excuse me? No, thank you. We would be sneaking out of our rooms to go and like hang out and meet up and stuff. It was really cool. But outside of that, the way that the thing was handled and everything, I told them before I left, I said, look, I'm not doing the show. Like, thanks for flying me out here. Thanks for the hotel. Thanks for the free food. Thanks for the experience and meeting all these people. I will not be doing this show. 100%. I didn't like the direction it was going. And it ruined a couple people's careers. That show, it was a coin toss. Like, some of the contestants, they went up and they did really well because they got a fan base. And then, but with the way it is with every reality show, they picked a couple of people and made them villains. And so it threw some people under the bus. And I'm glad I didn't do it because I didn't want to roll those dice. I was doing well for myself. I was booking events. I was doing everything that I wanted to do. And so, yeah, I'm 100% glad that I did not say yes, because I feel like with the way that my personality, and when I know I'm about to say something that's very controversial, I will say like, hey, look, not to mean this, but blank. Mm-hmm. Well, whenever you record that, it's real easy to cut and splice so that I no longer say, hey, before I say this, just know I don't mean this. And they just cut that whole part out and just go, oh my God, he said that this person is shit. No, that's not what I said at all. But now everybody thinks that's what I said. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But yeah, we came in doing everything just above, trying to do everything above that drama. Focus on ourselves, focus on making our costumes better, focus on making our entertainment better, and diversifying our panels. And that's when we started doing fan panels, and we started doing TV show panels, and we started doing this other stuff because we wanted to bring a wider variety, a larger spectrum to the circuit. But
we're gonna
go ahead.
We're gonna move back because we don't have that much time left.
Yeah.
So next week I want to talk about gatekeeping in the community, but then compared to now, because you'll still see gatekeeping in the community with some of the older cosplayers. Like, and I don't mean like old cosplayers. I mean people like around our age. There are people that still gatekeep, and I've seen it firsthand. Like one of my former roommates, she would get mad at people that bought their cosplay instead of actually making. Like, how dare they buy it? They should make. I'm like, what if they don't have the little? They should make time. But we were going to address the comments. So this is about panels. So Blastoid said some panels are getting boring, a little boring, and they're just rinse and repeat. We kind of read that one, but there was a reply to it. There's a lot of comments. We're going to address all of them. Pachinko says, unless they like the people who are hosting it. Blastoids also goes on to say, in panels you are interested in. For example, Fairy Tail panel, it was just a couple of high school kids, 4 of them, and 2 didn't even watch the anime, but did have abs to cosplay 2 of the characters, and it was just horrible, disappointing via fandom and lore. Pachinko says, oof. Blastoid says, I've been to the popular anime panel. It just ships and kink questions.
Yeah.
And that's also, that right there is also another reason why we actually created some of the panels that we do today. Like the dating, like not the dating game per se, but the fan fiction one, the adult super adult karaoke, just like any of the panels that we do. Like we do go to some panels that we think are very interesting just to check them out to see if we can not steal their idea, but replicate it, because there are people that host panels and they'll only host it at one con. They won't go to any other cons and host it. So we're like, okay, we won't host this panel at the con they normally hosted it, but we will bring it to other places.
Yeah.
One of them is literally a Saturday morning cartoon panel where people show up at like 7 or 8 in the morning in just whatever PJs, and they have cereal and milk there for people to get, and you just watch cartoons the whole panel.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking amazing.
It does. So real quick, because I do know we are running out of time. So let's spitfire a couple of things real quick. What would you say is the number one thing for anybody interested in getting involved? To what would you give them as a number one tip for getting a panel accepted at a con?
Okay, so if you want to get your panel accepted, you have to there are 3 valid points. The title is crucial. I cannot tell you how many times 2 panels were submitted, but the one with the better title won. Keeping them short and sweet, better. Like cosplay dating game battle royale, we just call it the super dating game show. It sounds better. It's probably not shorter, but it flows off the tongue. Yes, there is a podcast this Friday. So the title is number 1. You don't want to have it too long. You don't want to have the group's name in the title. That's why, and I will say why. It's better to have the group's name in the description.
Yeah.
Now, if it's the first time you're hosting this panel, I recommend keeping it to an hour. Because if it's a panel that people have normally don't go to or have heard of, keeping it an hour,
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Well,
the shortest panel that you can do. That's the
right. Well,
want.
Most anime conventions they require you to do at least 45 minutes. You can end it early, but you have to submit a 45-minute panel. And I say a 45-minute, it's an hour, but they're like, okay, you have 15 minutes to set up and break down. So it's 45 minutes.
When I started doing panels, they were 30 minutes long.
Well, they don't offer that shit no more.
Yeah.
Back when
I know. All my panels are an hour long, or actually,
sir, we have Wi-Fi and electricity now. I mean,
yeah, I know, right?
The railroads are finally built.
Yeah, they used to come into the room and go, "Your panel starts when the shadow hits this line. It is over when the panel hits this line." Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. So, some cons do this. Not all the cons, but some do. They have why should we host this panel? That is vital. That is the most important one. That is a sales pitch. And you have to actually pitch them based on and it's important to keep track of how many conventions you've hosted at, because they'll ask you, what cons have you hosted this panel at? Well, if you say, Anime Matsuri, or don't say Anime Matsuri though. I don't think they'd be too keen with that. They'll take anything at this point. But if you say Comic Palooza or A-Con, they'll like, oh wow, okay, yeah, this person they can probably attract some fans. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you start hosting panels, right? So at the beginning, my recommendation is submit one panel and one panel that you're good at. Ask for nothing in return. Just say, hey, look, this is something that I want to do. I'm passionate about it. I have basically all the information you could ever want to know about blank. The best con to submit it at is to submit it at a convention that is hosting a guest that is part of your thing. That is the easiest way to get accepted. So if you know that 4 voice actors from a particular anime that you really like and you want to host a panel on is going to be at a con, propose to host that panel, and that be an easy way to get accepted and an easy way to get in. And you're only required to host the one. And if you mess it up, it's not that big of a deal. If you don't like it, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a commitment, but it gets your foot in the door, it gets you an opportunity. And every time you host a panel, every time you create a new panel, I keep all of my panels in one document. And I have the document that is mine, and I have the document that I submit. The one that is mine, every time a con books that panel, I just put another I right after it. And then that way I have a running tally of every time I've hosted each one of those panels. And I can say, hey, look, I've hosted this panel X amount of times. And if I can remember like all of them, that's great. But the only ones you really need to remember are the big ticket ones. So if you're like, I've hosted this one at Comic Palooza and OniCon and IkiCon and ACon and here, like list. But if you've also hosted it at Delta H, Apollo, Fan Days, if you've hosted it all, just pick the big ones. Just say I've hosted it at Comic Palooza and San Antonio Comic Con and Amazing Con Dallas.
The con's not gonna give a shit about. Oh, you hosted it at Middle Bumfucking Nowhere Con.
Right. Steamhouse Con. I hosted this at Steamhouse Con. What the hell is Steamhouse Con? Look it up. It happened for 1 year and it was a complete failure.
The third thing that I wanted to get a point is when you're submitting your first panel, the most crucial thing is, do you have the time to do it?
Right.
Because you got to understand that you could put the con, okay, I'm available Friday or Saturday. This con will probably try to book you during the cosplay competition. And that's probably something that you want to be a part of. Cosplay competitions can sometimes take the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
And as a panelist, I don't recommend doing the cosplay competition if you're going to host panels. It can be done. You can do it. Yeah, if the con works with you.
Yeah.
But like some of the times, and that brings me to another point. I don't recommend having a shit ton of panels just to have panels. I mean, we have a lot of panels, but that's because I have panels that are exclusive to some cons. There are certain panels that I'll only host at OniCon or Delta, or that I won't. But, you know, they add up. My whole list of panels is probably like, I don't even know at this point. But there are some panels I don't take with me to every con.
Yeah, I have a shitload of panels because I ask for a lot. I'm going to be honest. I ask for a lot at and that is actually a good way that I think we should close this out and kind of give everybody some incentive, right? Because some people are just like, oh, they host panels because they host panels, right? Let's talk about the perks of being a guest over the just being an attendee.
As a guest, are you talking about like as a cosplay guest or just going as an?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so as an
attendee, how about this? What's your general experience with perks, and of all the events you've ever done, what is the best perk you've ever gotten being a guest?
The badge.
Okay, fair enough.
I've been a guest. I've actually been a cosplay guest before, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I hated it.
Gotcha.
I fucking hated it. Because I was a cosplay contest guest, and they had a head guest, and this bitch was a bitch.
Oh, bad experience.
Yeah, no, they were. I was giving my judges award to somebody that I thought deserved it, and they kept telling me that I couldn't because they bought the cosplay. They were gatekeeping it. They bought it. I'm like, it's a judges award, not a fucking craftsmanship award.
Exactly.
The arguing went back and forth for so long that I actually just chose like my second. Like, okay, fine, fuck it, I'm gonna pick the second guy.
Not me. Whenever I'm a cosplay guest,
they wouldn't let us fucking go forward, and they were best friends with the fucking host of the fucking cosplay competition.
Yeah,
it was out of my hands at the time. Though, dude, this was like Kamikaze Con 3. This was like 2010. I didn't have that much leeway back then. Not like I do now.
Yeah, well, this was early on. I'm not going to talk too much about any specifics to try and even give the remotest of hints here. I was a cosplay judge at a con. It was a small con. That's the only clue you're really going to get here. It was earlier on in my career. And one of the other judges was a very, 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 very old person. And they were of much more notoriety than I was. And even probably to this day, they are still of more notoriety than I am. and even locally, and they're not from here.
Mm.
Well, this person refused to allow me to give my judges award to the person I wanted to, because I give my judges award 100% based on your stage presence. I don't care if your costume's good. I don't care if you made it yourself. All I care about is when you get on that stage, are you embodying the character that you're trying to show off? Or are you up there and you're just giving it hell, man? Like, your costume doesn't look that great, but you're up there like walking the runway and you're like, look at this, or it's funny, right? I want to see that. That's who I give my personal award to, because it's my personal award. Well, this person refused to let us give our awards to anybody other than pretty young girls who were half naked. Yes, very high on the perv list here. And so I argued it. And then finally I was like, okay, sure, whatever. That's cool. Just to diffuse the situation. They went and they're like, here's the awards. And then they were like, and this person, and they came to me and they're like, your judge's award goes to, and I just stepped forward and I yelled at the top of my lungs, Naruto Uzumaki, and just pointed to the person I wanted to give my award to, because I was damned if I was going to let anybody decide who I was giving my award to. And they did not like it, 100%. But I felt I had to stand up for my principles in that moment. For me, so generally speaking, just to give you guys an idea, when you invest a lot into this stuff, the things that you can get, right? Mm-hmm. You can get your hotel room paid for. You can get a vendor's table paid for. You can get badges for yourself. You can get badges for people who are part of a group or we've had where a female from our group was the only one who got signed as a guest to an event. She on top of her own badge would get an additional badge in order to have a handler, like a male handler, go with her to make sure that, because there's creepy people at conventions sometimes. You can get those things. Do not expect them for little of nothing. You have got to put the time in. Sometimes there's some conventions that I go to that it is a job when I'm there, because I'm literally there hosting 18, 19 hours of paneling in 3 days. It's not a full-time job. It's almost a full-time job.
It can feel like a full-time job.
24 hours, that's 8 hours a day. So that's a full-time job. But you definitely have to put in the work. You can get those things. Now, my favorite perks is the green room. It's always been my favorite perk. It'll always be my favorite perk. I'm gonna agree with you there. The green room was cool. They fed me for free. You just reminded me that there was a green room when I was a guest, and we got fed like catering Chinese food. It was fucking awesome. So you get fed. So at some events you can get a per diem as well. It just depends on how big the event is, how much they're willing to spend on you, all that stuff. But the green room, they're going to feed you. You have access to it. You can go in there and eat. But you know what else is amazing about the green room? That's where all the guests go. That's where all the stars go. Right. So there you are as lonely little cosplayer or lonely little panel expert, and you're in the room with voice actors that you love, and you're just like, "Ooh, look who's over there," or movie stars. Depends on which con you're at, right? Because certain cons, they're real big on bringing in like TV and movie star people, right? So you might be sitting at a table, and a table across from you, there's Hodor just sitting there. He's eating, right? My favorite guest interaction I've ever had, because for me, he was like the voice of getting into animation. He was the voice of being a nerd for me. And that was Steve Bloom. Like, for me, that's top tier. I spent 3 days hanging out with this dude. Like, every chance I had, I was chilling at his table and we were having just real life conversations about real stuff. We weren't nerding out over like, oh my God, you're a voice actor. How do I get into voice acting? We're just talking about regular grown people stuff, like plans, things, hobbies, things that you like to do. I nerded out about him when I first met him. I was like, man, when I was coming up into anime, you were the voice of anime, and now I'm a father. I have kids, and you're still the voice. You're the voice of my kids' animation. I walk through the house and I hear your voice, and I'm like, oh, what the heck? What's on TV? And it's Rescue Bots, and you're the voice on Rescue Bots, and like I still hear you. So I nerded out about him on day one on Friday, and then on Saturday we put on, because Saturday is the mega cosplay day. That's the day you put on your best and brightest. And I put on my best costume on Saturday, and I came over to his table, and he was like, holy shit. He's like, can I have a picture with you? And I was like, oh yeah. And I'm in character. And I'm like, of course you can. And he takes a picture with me. And I was like, hey, like I'll come hang out again later. Because I dropped character for a second to whisper to him. I was like, I'll come hang out later. And he like stopped and he paused and he looked over at me and he goes, oh, holy shit, Ken. And I was like, oh, you just wanted a picture with me because of you didn't even know it was me. And he's like, yeah, dude, I'm going to throw it up on the website on Toonami and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, right? That was my favorite moment. And then whenever we were leaving, I felt bad because he had one last panel before he was getting on the plane. And I had a panel at the same time. But my panel ended 30 minutes before his. And I go, okay, I'm going to run to his room. And I'm like, that sounds gay. But I'm going to run to their panel room. And I'm going to try and catch the end of the panel. Well, when I open the door to the panel, it's empty. The panel hall's empty. And I was like, oh my God, I missed him. And so defeated, I turn around and I walk and I start going down the escalator. And as I'm going down the escalator, I look out to the con floor, and the con floor has hundreds of people on it. And here I see him walking with this suitcase behind. He's got this little roller suitcase. And he like, it's so weird. He looks up and he sees me on the escalator and he's like, hey. And I was like, hey. And he goes, dude, I thought I was going to leave before I got to say bye. And I was like, I thought you were going to leave before I got to say bye. And, we hugged it out. And he goes, dude, next time we're at a con together, like, let's go out to the bar and let's get some drinks. And I was like, 100%. And he doesn't come to Texas very often, so I haven't had another chance to sit down since then. And
we'll have a Geeks 5 Ever Con, and we'll invite him specifically just so you can give him a hug. We're gonna spend $4,000 just so you can give this man a 5-second hug. Dude,
he's a really good guest, and his panels are really good, super informative because he's been in the game for years.
My 3 favorite guests, because I can't really pick one. So when I met Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
When I met Mr. Curvy, who recently passed away, he was the Ocean Dove voice actor of Goku, and he was one of the Ninja Turtles. Me and him, we were drinking beers, and we were talking shit about Sean Schemmel.
Oh no, poor Sean.
Oh fuck, dude, Sean! I fucking hate
Sean
him.
Has canceled every event that I was ever at that he was supposed to be at, and
he doesn't like you.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it is, right? But I've never gotten to meet him because
he was an asshole to me, dude.
I've had 4 separate conventions that I got booked at that he was booked at, and every single one he canceled.
So I don't like this guy. Fucking, I'm gonna cancel.
Right,
getting paid more than me. No, I hate him. I don't hate him, but I do not support him because he was an asshole to me.
Yeah, I understand that. And I have a couple of people who are like that too.
Yeah, I mean. He was a dick to me, and look at all the Dragon Ball shit I got. He should be kissing my ass. If he had kids, I would have put him through college.
You want to know? I think you would be slightly jealous.
What?
We went to a steaming pile of shit convention one time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it exists. It can't. There's no way it could exist anymore because it was bad. Like.
What was it? Was it in Texas?
It was in Texas. It was in Tyler, Texas. And it was a first-year con, and they invited so many big names.
Was it Anime Overload?
No.
Animix?
No. It was called. Oh my gosh! It was called something. I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna send it to you. It was bad, right? We got paid on Sunday, but not what we were promised because the con basically agreed to bring all of these high value guests out and agreed to pay them a certain amount, and then thought that their ticket sales would cover the payment of their guests, and that wasn't the case. So we went to this con. We set up at a table, and we're right across from Sunny Strait. And what?
Was this in a library?
No, maybe. I don't remember. No, it wasn't. It wasn't in a library, but I think there was a library in there. It was like in a Motel 6 almost. It was bad.
Okay. Was he doing a panel? Was like 5 voice actors on a table, and he was like dead in the center?
I honestly can't tell. I didn't go to any panels.
I think I went to that one.
Okay. So the dealer's room was super tiny. There was like 30 of us in there. But we had the table right across from Sunny Strait. And we're hanging out. We're chit-chatting with him throughout the day. We're talking about how much the con sucks. And like we're debating, do you think we're actually even going to get paid? Because at this point, the con chair keeps telling us, oh, we'll pay later. We'll pay tomorrow. We'll, pushing it back over and over again. So we're talking with him the whole day. And then towards the end of the day, this is Saturday, he comes over and he goes, hey, so we're going to go over and have dinner at the restaurant over here. Like, do y'all want to join us? We'll talk about like how shitty the con is, and we'll just blow off some steam and, at least try to enjoy ourselves while we're here. So we're like, yeah, cool. Let's do that. So we showed up over there, and the table, I should have pictures somewhere. The table was stacked. It was stacked. It had it was just a complete voice actor table. And they're all talking about work and all this other stuff. And like, it was great. We sat there, we bullshit with Sonny all night. Sonny and his wife were both there. Who all was there? I gotta really think about it. Jeremy Inman was there, which is Android 16.
Mm-hmm.
Eric. Who voices Cell?
What's it? I think it was like Justin something.
Well, then maybe it's not Cell. His name's definitely Eric.
I'm not good with names.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm not good with names at all. Like, but we are gonna have to end it.
Yeah.
Didn't you have something to do?
Yeah. I gotta head out of here, so we gotta end it up. But just so you know, guys, there are tons of perks that come along with doing all this stuff.
We will share more next week. We'll do a recap, and then we'll do gatekeeping. Because I'm pretty sure gatekeeping isn't an hour-long discussion.
Gatekeeping is an hour-long discussion. You know how many times I've been gatekept? And gatekeeping from back in our day.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot worse. But I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine that's on the chat right now. He's the guy that runs Pixelation. Go ahead and check out his YouTube. He runs a YouTube and a Twitch. Hey James, if you're still listening, why don't you post the link to your channel in the comment section below? I can even have you come on my show as a guest eventually. But with that being said, just a couple announcements. We will have a podcast this Friday at 7 p.m. We don't have a guest, but we will cover some subjects. Another thing is next week will be the final week that this will be on here. We will be going audio on Spreaker. Spreaker.com/geeks5ever. So you'll be able to listen to us. He's like, yes, dude, you don't have to plug me. Yes, dude, in the podcast community, all podcasters plug podcasters. That's how it is. That's why I like the podcasting community. Everyone's so friendly. It's actually overwhelming. Like, seriously, nobody like, oh, you're struggling, man. Here, do you need this? Do you need that? Like, do you know what kind of mic do you like? People are so like, Not like the cosplay community was back in the day for the gatekeepers. It wasn't all bad, but there were some aspects that were bad. But with that being said, with our podcast being every Monday at 7:00, I have a brand new YouTube channel and a brand new audio only podcast. It's a Dragon Ball panel where I'll discuss everything from the manga and anime to theories to speculations about what's coming up. I'll even do reviews on all the figures I own. I own some fucking bootlegs and they look like shit. So I'll tell you where to avoid them. First off, I'm going to tell you to avoid anything from wish.com.
No. Really?
Yeah. Because I had, like, when I bought these figures, I didn't know anything about Wish. This is when Wish was still kind of relatively new, like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I own them now. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God. I remember seeing this figure online for $60, but Wish has it for $5. What a steal!
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like I ordered a Snickers bar and they mailed me a Ziploc bag with a turd inside of it, with they happen to have nuts sticking out.
You can get some okay stuff off of Wish, but like figurines is not one of them.
No, yeah, you can definitely get some okay stuff. Like there are people that sell legitimate refurbished PlayStation 4s that are much better than the ones at GameStop.
Like I said, you can get some good stuff, but anybody who's selling official merchandise and it is way underpriced, it is not official merchandise.
No, and it's not going to look like the picture. Let me just put it out there.
No. You remember when you were a kid and you used to take a lighter and melt the faces off of your action figures? That's what they kind of look like.
Yeah, no, for real. It's like, I was going to say something offensive, but never mind. Not on this show.
Yeah.
The other show. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I am Jesse Goku. If you haven't already subscribed to us on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitch, make sure you do so. For the Spreaker, it's like speaker, but with an R, SPREAKER.com. Check out Spreaker, Spreaker.com/geeks. That will go live in 2 weeks. Next week will be the final episode on here. This is the second episode for our Trash Talk panel. Next week, we're going to do a recap on hosting panels, but we're also going to talk about gatekeeping in the community. This is Ken. I'm Jesse Goku, and we're letting everybody letting y'all know to have a classy night.